Hi, dreamers. I'm Percival,
And I'm Vivian.
and we are your hosts of the Dreamscape Chronicles.
If you would like to share a story for us to tell or come on the show and share it yourself, we welcome all dreamers to contact us at dreamscapechronicles@outlook.com.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hey, dreamers. This is episode 8. We're going to kind of make a circle back around to our sleep paralysis episodes.
Yeah, we had some things we were talking about, and we decided this would be an interesting topic to discuss. We're going to talk about alien abductions and sleep paralysis and the possible connection between the two.
I think the best way to start is by introducing some of the popular alien abduction stories we already know of.
Okay.
So, for instance, we have 1961. One of the most famous stories was from Betty and Barney Hill. It actually started September 19th and went to September 20th because it was actually like a 7-hour lost time encounter.
Right, and I know this story. This is a popular one.
A lot of people will recognize this one. Around 10:30 p.m. in rural New Hampshire, driving back from vacation in Niagara Falls, Betty had seen a bright light. She urged Barney to stop the car, and then she looked through binoculars while Barney walked their dog. Betty observed an odd-shaped craft with flashing multicolored lights. The craft rapidly descended, only stopping about 80 to 100 feet above their 1957 Chevy Bel Air. It hovered mid-air while Barney then used the binoculars to identify 8 to 11 humanoid figures who were peering out of the craft windows. The craft came closer to Barney, and he ran back terrified to the car. As the hills sped away, they heard a strange beeping and fell into a daze. When they awoke, they realized they were just outside Concord, and it was the next morning. A year later, they met United States Air Force Captain Ben Sweat, a guest speaker at their church. Having shown an interest in hypnosis, they asked if he would help them in revealing the missing time of their accounts, the 7 hours. Sweat declined as he was an amateur hypnotist and told them to seek a professional. Under hypnosis regression with Dr. Benjamin Simons, Barney recalled driving away, but feeling compelled to pull off the road and into the woods, where he saw 6 men standing on the dirt road.
I wonder, are these like Men in Black, or are these
No, I believe the term was not human.
Oh, okay.
The car stalled and 3 of them approached. Even though this was not from their bedrooms, they did experience a form of hypnotic paralysis, rendering them helpless and at the abductor's mercy. Could this be connected to the other entities who share a commonality with paralyzing their victims?
Interesting. I've always thought of that too. Like they have the ability to paralyze people, and they experienced similar sleep paralysis before having some of these abductions from home.
Yeah, it could be. It would make sense anyway.
So then there's like other stories. There's like Travis Walton. That was 1975-ish. They turned it into a movie.
Which movie?
Fire in the Sky. It's an older movie.
Do you know what it's about?
It's pretty much about his abduction. He was a logger, I believe, and they were under contract, and one night him and the rest of the workers were leaving. They saw a light in the forest, and everyone saw him go up and touch it, and he disappeared.
Oh, because wasn't he was like reported missing for a while, right?
Right, he was gone for a few days, and then he called from a payphone later on and then took like a lie detector test.
How crazy.
He had also experienced being paralyzed and not being able to move while they were doing operations on him.
Well, and that tracks with a lot of the UFO abduction stories we hear.
Indeed.
So let's skip to November 30th, 1989. Linda Napolitano allegedly was seen levitating outside her 12th floor apartment in downtown Manhattan. She claims it was alien abduction. She even has a Netflix docuseries based around the encounter, The Manhattan Abduction. Bud Hopkins, a well-known ufologist, had claimed to identify 23 witnesses to this abduction. He later wrote a book on the subject matter. Linda Napolitano even summed if she was hallucinating, then they saw her hallucination too.
Yeah, but didn't they try to discredit this?
Right. So, though they never proved any of the names publicly, theoretically, Two of the most compelling witnesses were security guards parked in a nearby car protecting a then UN Secretary General. Later, though, they told PBS they stated that these were false allegations and called them unfounded rumors.
So they basically went back on what they originally said.
I guess Linda or someone that night had seen them in that car and assumed that they were witnesses, and they are now going back on possibly seeing this event.
Probably because they work for the government.
Right. And I think they even mentioned in their interview with PBS that the state, being the UN, does not have anything to do with this event. So it kind of sounded more like an official statement.
Typical.
Yeah, ultimately, who knows what happened that night? The theory many people regard is that these encounters are elaborations of sleep paralysis. Like the old hag, Hat Man, and even your cloaked one are seen as versions of sleep paralysis myths.
Right, and I believe I've even mentioned that I had a sleep paralysis episode where I thought I saw a gray.
I would love to get more into that.
We'll tell it after we tell our other story.
I think, honestly, the controversial thing I can't stop thinking of is how strange it is that many people have not heard about these myths before experiencing one themselves.
Yeah, that's like me. Whenever I had first started having the sleep paralysis and seeing the things, like I've never heard about any of this stuff.
Same. I had not, and after experiencing it is when I started kind of deep diving, trying to research what I was seeing.
Yeah, and I mean, before that, it was just told to me that it was a bad dream or something.
Right. Or your brain just trying to work through some stress, you know?
Yeah, it wasn't for me until I started digging in it myself that I realized it was an actual thing that happens to a lot of people.
A shared experience.
Yeah, truly.
So we'll read this story by an anonymous person who shared. I was between the ages of 5 and 7. My memory is awful. And I was sleeping over at step-grandma's house, being watched by my aunt and her boyfriend. Me and my 2 cousins were in this enclosed patio turned living room that had a TV in it and a couch and enough space for 3 kids in between to fall asleep in. So we were told by my aunt and her boyfriend to just turn around and watch the TV and go to sleep while they too presumably sat and watched us. Anyway, I don't know how long I laid there, leaning towards the TV, but being a smartass, I turned around to see the 2 caretakers asleep, and behind them outside on the patio, out of the screen door, I had seen a humanoid figure which looked like the typical gray alien. Immediately, I turned around and pulled my blanket over my head, because apparently I'm Harry Potter. A few seconds passed that seemed like hours. Frightened, I peeked. It's gone. Then I hear a twig break above my head where the patio door is. I see the thing, bent on one knee, resting on the other, with its head turning somewhat to the side in curiosity. Immediately, I retreated back to my comfortable blanket of impenetrability, hoping it wouldn't see me. Somehow, suddenly, I fell asleep very shortly after this, as if I was put under at the dentist office. The next morning, I awoke in my bed at home, to where my mom and stepfather had taken me from his mother's house. This was not uncommon, as this happened a lot. They both worked nights. Anyway, I go outside for some long-forgotten reason and see a tiny alien figure in the mulch near my apartment complex. I ran inside to get my stepfather. He came back out with me. It had gone missing. I got a right smacking for lying, and that ends that story. I didn't mention it to him ever again. The recurring thing for me is sleep paralysis, but to a larger extent, certain dreams are so realistic and vivid, to the point where I've started to confuse them with memories. And they happen whenever I sleep. 5-minute naps, 4 hours of sleep, 8 hours of sleep. Any amount of time I sleep, 80% of the time, I will have a dream I confuse with reality because of how real it feels. I often feel extremely tired as well throughout the day, as if I never really get any rest. Sleep paralysis happens every couple of months and is usually frightening. Normal sleep paralysis, however, it all starts with the buzzing and I can't move, afraid, paranoid, feeling of being watched, and occasionally I see that creature standing in the room.
That is so creepy.
Isn't that nuts?
Yeah, that's a super interesting story.
And there we see that direct relationship between alien abduction or alien encounters and sleep paralysis.
It's kind of interesting that they had seen the alien first and then started with sleep paralysis afterwards.
It really is. I mean, sometimes this conversation becomes chicken and the egg kind of debate.
Yeah, I feel like you hear a lot of people who see crafts and then they basically start having these sleep paralysis incidents.
Yeah, I think that's very true.
I guess I can go ahead and tell mine. I believe I've already kind of mentioned it. It was when I was younger and we were leaving a Walmart and we left the garden section and we were walking towards the car and there was like a large group of people that were standing in the parking lot, kind of looking at the store.
Okay.
So we walked past them a little bit and then we're like wondering why they were all staring. So we turn around and then we see this large oval grayish colored thing just floating in the sky.
Oval.
Yeah, it was very, I guess maybe what they would call like a cigar shaped craft, but it was very oval and it had
Oh,
like nothing attached to it. There were no lights. The whole thing was kind of illuminated, but it wasn't a light itself. It was just very visible.
oh, weird.
And it was probably about 7 p.m. So the sun was going down, but it wasn't dark. And it was moving very, very quickly, no noise whatsoever. And I'm pretty sure the next day they even had a little ad in our local newspaper about blimp that was for something for one of the refineries and kind of brushed it off, but it was super interesting.
A blimp.
Yeah, so that was my first UFO type experience. And then after having sleep paralysis for a long time, there was one time where I had sleep paralysis happen. And whenever I had seen something in the room move, it ended up kind of looking like it was a gray alien.
Oh, weird.
It was the only time it ever happened, and I wasn't really afraid, and it didn't do anything. It kind of was just standing there. I always personally think because I wasn't afraid that it might have been one of the other shadow entities trying to mimic what the gray looks like, trying to see if I was afraid of like aliens or
Mm.
something.
So you thought maybe it was because this was happening after you'd seen the pill-shaped craft, right?
Right, yes.
Okay, so you thought maybe it was a shadow figure pretending to be an alien?
Yeah, I think it was trying to trick me into thinking it was something else to scare me, but it wasn't that scary. It was kind of a very strange interaction.
You know, to go back to that chicken and egg debate, do you ever think that possibly it was the alien and it's always appeared as a shadow figure?
I have always wondered that, but I had sleep paralysis before this for a couple years. But I did think that it could possibly have been aliens that were doing the sleep paralysis stuff
Yeah.
regardless. But now, the more people talk about this stuff and aliens being possibly interdimensional, and these shadow entities are also interdimensional, it wouldn't be too hard to say that they could be very similar,
Okay.
or at least both trans-dimensional beings in a way.
Okay.
So who knows?
I mean, anything's possible.
But yeah, they never interacted with me. It was just standing in the corner, kind of like the cloaked one did.
That's interesting that, a lot of people relate those already as the same hallucinatory events, but if it's not hallucinatory, such as Linda claims, then what are we experiencing?
Exactly.
I mean, it could be a real entity, a real creature out there that is paralyzing us and feeding on that fear.
That's true. And to think that there are some conspiracy theories out there that people believe that the government is working with these extraterrestrials or interterrestrials, whatever they are,
Mm,
and allowing them to use us for abductions.
like making deals with them.
Pretty much, but I think it's gotten out of control from all the stuff I've read,
Mm.
and maybe they're experimenting on more people than was agreed upon.
Oh, that's an interesting theory.
And that's kind of one of those conspiracies of why our tech got so advanced so quickly in the past,
Mm,
60, 70 years.
yeah, that we're being fed some of that technology.
Yeah.
Well, looping it back to your story, I have another anonymous story I'd like to share. It was the summer before 8th grade. Me and two of my friends snuck out at midnight to go walk around the neighborhood and see these girls on the next block who were having a sleepover. We turn a corner in our neighborhood and there's a huge black blimp shaped thing in the sky, like the pictures of the Hindenburg, but bigger than that and as close, if not closer. Completely silent and the size of at least 4 or 5 football fields across, no exaggeration, even though I was young, we stared at it, entranced, asking each other over and over again if we see it, which we all agree that we do, standing there frozen in one place. It's like black polished gunmetal, no lights, no sound, no anything. It's just hovering there. And then I don't know what happened, but time clearly jumped. Next thing I remember is the craft, ship, government experiment, whatever it was, had gone, and there was a tiny, glowing white barbell thing in the sky, seemingly slowly falling to earth with wisps of smoke coming off it. Then 2 brand new black trucks came speeding down the street, going about 70 in a residential zone. Then after that, I remember walking home to one of my friends' houses and going to bed. At that point, it was like 5 or 6 in the morning, and the sun was coming up. We all made a promise to tell my dad in the morning because he worked for the city, but we never did. I don't know what happened later in life to one of my friends who was there, but the other was my best friend, and we sort of made an unspoken pact never to talk about it. We all grew up, and I sort of lost touch with him too. We did reconnect, but it was like there was something between us neither of us wanted to touch or talk about. Looking back on it now, there's no way we could have been the only ones to see it. It wasn't that late at night, and it was over a heavily populated suburb of a major city. The idea of this has always scared me more than any sort of possible abduction scenario. That there were others and we're all voluntarily suffering a sort of collective amnesia. Except we're not. I've thought about hypnosis, but that scares me too, plus I'm not sure if I'd trust the results. I was just a kid then, and I'm not sure if I could trust the hypnotist. What I do know, again, is that there is no way it was just the 3 of us who saw it. We're talking a huge thing hovering in the sky directly above hundreds of houses just after midnight on a summer weekend night. But nothing on the news, nothing in the paper, nothing on TV, no words spoken about it again, ever, by anyone.
Oh yeah, it's pretty creepy. It's kind of similar to my weird blimp thing, but the one I saw was gray, but yeah, very similar.
I thought so too when I ran across it. That was very strange.
That's very, very interesting story.
I agree. Now, I do have one more story. This one's more sleep paralysis based, and again by an anonymous listener. I woke up one night completely paralyzed, but able to see 2 strange, large alien silhouettes standing in the hallway outside my room. It looked as if they were having a heated argument about me, as they were constantly looking and pointing towards my room. As soon as I realized this, I saw them notice that I was awake. I got so scared and closed my eyes, but I could hear that they were slowly walking into my room, now continuing the previous argument. I finally opened my eyes again to see them standing at the end of my bed, these looming dark figures with stretched heads and green eyes. Again, I closed my eyes, but yet they had noticed me. At this point, I knew I was out of luck. Completely frozen to my bed, I bolted my eyes shut in complete fear. I tried my best at this point to wake myself up, but nothing was working. I could not escape this scenario. I finally opened my eyes one last time to see the same 2 terrifying faces looming over me, kind of how a dentist would. It absolutely freaked me out, and I woke up instantly in complete fear. It was definitely one of my most intense sleep paralysis experiences.
Oh, so there's another alien one for you.
Yes, another sleep paralysis alien connection.
Yeah, it's truly unique how many people have these different entities during sleep paralysis, but it's all kind of very similar in nature.
It does seem connected. Some individuals even believe that UFO sightings could be manifestations of spiritual entities, including angels, rather than physical spacecraft.
I've definitely heard this before too.
What have you heard on it?
So, in many religions, angels are spiritual beings serving as messengers or guardians sent by God. So, often they're described with supernatural abilities and connections to a divine realm or an alternate dimension, if you want to look at it that way.
Sure.
And angelic beings are often seen as a parallel to the concept of aliens. For instance, they're not from here, they're more intelligent than us, they can fly, they're often known to have powerful weapons, they visit Earth from time to time, and even may have had something to do with humanity's creation or our development.
Well, and that all sounds very similar to some of the theories that are flying around there.
Exactly. So, some people who believe in alien encounters may interpret their experiences as encounters with angelic beings, particularly when describing benevolent encounters with beings of light or advanced knowledge.
That sounds very otherworldly.
Right. And I can understand why they would think that. And also, there's the ancient astronaut theory, that kind of backs this stuff to where maybe these angelic beings and the aliens could be one and the same, possibly.
Oh,
Not
I
sure.
haven't heard that one.
So, the ancient astronaut theory suggests that ancient civilizations may have misinterpreted visits from advanced extraterrestrial beings as encounters with gods or angels.
Oh,
But what if they could potentially be one and the same?
right.
So, people have had the same encounters during sleep paralysis, seeing angelic beings appearing to them, giving them a calming sense, often telling the individuals, fear not, or do not be afraid, when appearing to them at first. And I'm pretty sure people have heard that before.
Which is kind of funny because if you think about it, when you're in that moment, when you're having that sleep paralysis encounter, that's the one thing that you don't think is possible. It's like calming down and not being afraid.
Right. And you would think typically seeing an angel wouldn't be a scary thing. This is another commonality with these two, as the abductors have said similar notions to abductees to calm them down and to prevent them from being afraid.
Hmm.
And multiple people have described them as otherworldly entities that would drive a sane person mad as if they saw a Lovecraftian monstrosity.
Oh my gosh. So wait, they're not, romantic arrow wielding babies?
Absolutely not. So the seraphim, the cherubim, and Ophanim aren't exactly angels. They're throne guardians and throne bearers, and they are mentioned in scripture as otherworldly entities.
That's so weird.
Right. So for a good example, the Ophanim are described as wheels within wheels that have been associated with Daniel 7:9, mentioned as Galgal. Traditionally, these wheels of Galgalin and fiery flame and burning fire.
That's kind of interesting because if you look at some of the older original artwork on them, they use colors like blue and red in order to push this theme that they are otherworldly. More like blue is supposed to represent wind and red is supposed to represent fire. So they have this like fire being or wind being behind them as far as metaphor in the artwork themselves.
That's interesting.
Right.
So these wheels within wheels kind of sound like UFOs if you think about it, right? So
Or rubber band balls.
yeah, rubber band balls. But yes, back to the Ophanim, they're described as four eye-covered wheels, each composed of two nested wheels that moved next to the winged cherubim beneath the throne of God.
Okay.
The four wheels move with the cherubim because the spirit of the cherubim is in them.
Huh.
And they are also referenced as the many-eyed ones.
Oh, like that's an alternate name.
Right. So you could see how like this thing, if you're thinking UFO and the multiple lights and it being like a sphere or something in the sky, how that would kind of seem like it would look like a UFO if, just take it from what it's written as.
Definitely. Also sounds much more terrifying than the fat babies.
Right. But like you said, those babies, so angelic beings are viewed from a cultural mindset of the original writers and what they understood them to look like.
Okay.
But during the Greco-Roman period, they had been portrayed as infants with wings who were like familiars of gods and helped to do their bidding.
Oh, so that's where we got it?
Right, but then later adapted by the Italians during the Renaissance period with the term puto, I believe that's how you say it.
Hmm.
Italian vernacular derived from the Latin word boy. This is why so many paintings depict cherubim as children instead of multi-winged, four-headed beings covered in eyes, as they are originally written in scripture.
How weird. I never knew where we got that from, but that makes more sense.
Right, and so you can see why those sound very alien-like, and you can kind of have a connection between the two, especially with them potentially both being interdimensional or of the same nature.
So, I mean, you gave us a good description. What did the seraphim look like?
So, if I'm not mistaken, I believe the seraphim had 6 wings and they were covering their face and their legs. And then they used like the other 2 wings to fly.
Weird.
And they were also covered in eyes. If I'm not mistaken, it was to hide their body because they were so bright
Like
to
pure
look
light?
to look at. Yeah, so they
Ooh.
used their wings to cover themselves. And also, that's actually, I'm pretty sure the movie Bird Box is based on a seraphim being the monster in the movie.
So the thing that no one could see or it would kill them?
Right, they basically had to cover their eyes because they couldn't look at it.
Strange. I have to admit, if I was Mary and Gabriel showed up and said, "Fear not, I bring you good news of great joy," I think I would still be fearing.
Well, I think any of these things would just pretty much terrify anybody that just appeared out of nowhere.
Fair. Fair. Well, I think that's a good wrap.
Yeah, it was some interesting topics we had today. We figured we'd put a little bit more sci-fi into it this time around because there were little connections.
Definitely. And if anyone has any stories they want to share, send them to our email.
And don't forget to rate the show. Please go rate the show and leave comments.
It'll really help us to grow the show and make it better for you guys as listeners.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to the guys at the Kryptonaut podcast and Tony Merkel from the Confessionals podcast for letting me use their platforms to promote the show.
And talk to more people about their experiences.
It's been a huge help for us getting a lot more people to reach out to us.
And if you haven't watched their show or listened to their show, please do so. It's really rad.
Oh, yeah, go check them out. They're definitely worth a listen.
For sure. This has been a great episode, guys. Keep dreaming, and until then,
join us in discovering what may lie beyond the walls of sleep.